Thank you all for joining me. We are here, we are live. And if you can hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat and we can get today's show started. And while I'm waiting for the ones to come into the live stream, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button. That way, this video will permeate throughout the YouTube algorithms and will send notifications out and let other people know who are not subscribed to this channel that I am currently live and that this is a video that they should be watching because it should pique their interest. Also, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button, and also share this video out on your social media platforms. And I see people are starting to come into the live stream so we can get today's show started. So now, as you can see, based on the title of today's live stream, non-citizen policing in Illinois is now officially legal. It's officially legal now. And they're following suit behind California, in which in the state of California, I believe the bill was SB 960 that was passed into law earlier this year. And now following up, we have in Illinois, it is officially legal. Non-citizens are allowed to become police officers in Illinois starting January 1st of next year, beginning January 1st of next year. And it is completely ridiculous and completely insane. I am 100% against non-citizen policing. I am also 100% against non-citizen voting. This is something that I've been documenting happening throughout the country, particularly in the major metropolitan Democratic ran cities over the past year and a half now. And we're seeing a lot of this stuff come to fruition and come to light now. And this also is why I stress so much, and I've been stressing so much over the last, we'll say, year and a half, the importance of local politics, because this isn't Joe Biden doing this. This isn't Kamala Harris. You can argue that they're the reasons that we have open borders, and yes, that's true. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to non-citizen voting and non-citizen policing, these are all local matters, right? These are all local matters happening by way of your governor, by way of your city council, and by way of who's sitting in the mayor's seat as well. This is why local politics is so important. I've showed you this before, and I'm going to show you this again right now as far as the Illinois General Assembly is concerned. In the Illinois General Assembly, Illinois has a supermajority when we're talking about it being a Democratic ran state. So to all my brothers and sisters out there that are pushing really hard for concrete transformative legislation on a federal level, we should be pushing really hard for these things on a local level as well. They have a supermajority in Illinois, completely Democratic Party ran from top to bottom, yet they can never find a way to pass any meaningful legislation for you and your communities. Yet this is the party that loves Black Americans, right? This is the party that cares about you so much. They care about racial justice. They care about all of these disparities between blacks and whites. They care so much about you, yet do absolutely nothing for you consistently. And we just hand them over the votes anyways. We have to build up our own politicians and take over local office. And if we're not building up our own local politicians from the grassroots level, then we have to be putting our funds together and our money together in order to buy out politicians, right? Or in order to put together super PACs so that we can push our own agendas. Hey, we're giving you set amount of money, so when you get into office, this is what you're going to do for us. But we have to do these things on a local level. It is significantly easier, not saying it isn't difficult, but it's significantly easier and significantly cheaper to run for office locally and win, as well as it is significantly easier and cheaper to simply buy out a politician. Now, we're not talking about buying out one out wholesale, but like I said, you're putting together super PACs. Your group is putting your money together and saying that we're going to give you this amount of funds, and you're going to push said legislation for us. You're going to champion said legislation for us. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be focusing on local politics. Now, my biggest issue with the non-citizen policing, coming back to that, right, is that in the state of Illinois, non-citizen policing will then open the door to non-citizen voting, right? in local elections in the state of Illinois, and obviously within the city of Chicago as well. That's what's going to happen. Now, I want to play a video very quickly, and I've played it for you guys in the past before, if I'm not mistaken, but I want to play this video again once more. And it's of Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, the new mayor of Chicago. And he was asked about how he feels concerning non-citizen voting in local elections. And this is what he had to say. So I'm going to play this for you very quickly. I'm not going to play the whole thing, I don't think, but just enough for you to get his answer, and then we can move on, right?
Is your position on the right of undocumented immigrants to vote in municipal elections?
So my position is, pretty straightforward. Honestly, it's standard. There are certain rights that come with citizenship, and I believe those rights still should be protected. And so, I do certainly agree that, families who are, seeking refuge or just opportunity here in America, that there should be a pathway to citizenship. Like, I'm not mad at that, right? And I also recognize that, our democracy, for better or worse, was designed to provide like enfranchisement to individuals, of course, who have, the legal presentation of being here. I think that should be maintained. Now as far as, undocumented families having some say so in the direction of our public schools, I think that's worth figuring out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're dropping your kids off. I don't believe that families, should be shut out of the ability to have influence. And it's why we fought for democracy, right? Because in Chicago, Maze, when you met me, one of the things that I was pushing for is for an elected representative school board. I organized all over the city of Chicago to bring that into fruition, and then had to lobby in Springfield and challenge some of my own friends who were being skittish about it. So I believe in the expansion of democracy, and in fact, at a time in which democracy is actually being eroded and voting rights are being curtailed and stuffed, we were able to actually expand that. That's the leadership that I bring to the city of Chicago, and I'm prepared to bring that once I'm mayor of Chicago. The disenfranchisement of our people, through keeping us out of the ability to influence our children's education. The fact that we've criminalized poverty, and that has had a real awful stain on Black men in particular. Like, we have to continue to find real ways in which we, enfranchise people who have been marginalized by this, really, really jacked up system.
Now, I told you guys in the beginning that I wasn't going to play the entirety of him answering the question, but the reason that I allowed it to play is because I wanted you to hear how, when he was asked a very direct question about, do you support illegal immigrants voting in local elections, he immediately pivoted to conflate it with the voting rights challenges that Black Americans have had in America. He conflated the two together, and that was done intentionally in order to be able to get Black Americans behind the idea of illegal immigrants being able to vote in local elections, right? Or I should say non-citizens, to be able to vote in local elections. Now, he didn't give a direct answer concerning non-citizens being able to vote in local elections, but what he does support and is pushing for and will be trying to put into law is for non-citizens to be able to vote for their school board elections. That's what he's going to be pushing for. And these are just the little steps that are taking place brick by brick that ultimately goes in the direction of undocumented, or I should say non-citizens, being able to vote in local elections overall. You start with allowing them the opportunity to be able to vote for school board elections. They're able to be police officers in the state. And if they can elect, if they can vote in the school board elections, and if they can also be police officers in your state, then why can't they vote overall? You see how that works and how they move ever forward, closer and closer, brick by brick, towards the desired goal. And once again, this comes back to the power of local elections. What they would like to do on a federal level is have a sweeping reform in which they could essentially just make all 22 million, I believe, undocumented migrants in the country, citizens. That's what they would like to do. But when you have control of your local politics, you don't necessarily have to wait for things to come about on the federal level. You can make it happen as we see it happening here in Illinois, where non-citizens can become police officers, as well as potentially in the future, if Brandon Johnson has it his way, non-citizens can vote in school board elections, and eventually that would trickle over into local elections concerning the mayor, the governor, and city council as well. Now, what I want to do is play for you guys a quick, I believe it's Fox News Chicago clip of Governor Pritzker signing this bill into law. So let me pull that up for you right now. And before we do, we have 186 people in the live stream right now. Please make sure you hit the like button if you have not already. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. And now let me load up this video for you now.
All out tonight, just days after Governor Pritzker signed a controversial bill into law that allows non-citizens to become full-fledged police officers.
A former Chicago mayoral candidate is threatening to challenge the law in the courts if it isn't repealed before taking effect January 1st.
Scott Schneider joins us now in the studio with more on that.
Yeah, Corey, you just mentioned Dr. Willie Wilson, who says this law stands in defiance of federal law when it comes to who can become a uniformed police officer or deputy in this country, while the bill's main sponsor insists the law is tailor-made for DACA recipients. Police officers here in Chicago and statewide have long been required to be citizens of the United States. With a sweep of his pen last week, Governor Pritzker changed that, as Illinois will soon allow non-citizens who are eligible to become members of law enforcement upon completion of training.
I want to just take a moment to just rewind that back very quickly. I want you to pay attention to how when they said non-citizens and look at how they're showing.
Pritzker changed that.
Now look at how they're showing those who have been bussed into Chicago by way of Governor Abbott in Texas. Don't let that go over your head, okay?
Illinois will soon allow non-citizens who are eligible to become members of law enforcement upon completion of training. State Rep. Barbara Hernandez of Aurora led the charge to get the legislation passed.
The goal of the bill overall is to allow DACA and permanent residents that are already able to work in this country legally, apply to become police officers.
I want to stop it right there. You're going to hear this a lot where they keep bringing up DACA. This is so we can allow DACA the opportunity to be able to fully participate in American society, and so that they can become police officers too. These politicians putting DACA in front of everything before they pass it is a way of making it more palatable for it to pass, right? Every time they say, "Oh, this is tailor-made for DACA recipients, those that are under DACA," that's to make it palatable for you to be able to accept it. Because without that, your mind, most of us, immediately goes to the undocumented, non-citizen, illegal aliens that have been bussed into Chicago by way of Texas, right? But they try to calm your nerves by saying, "Oh, no. It's just DACA. It's just DACA." It's not just DACA. It's those that are coming in from Texas as well, who just crossed the border last week also. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more once this clip is over. So let me get back into this news clip, and then I'll elaborate more.
Currently, more than 30,000 DACA recipients living and working in Illinois, and unprecedented officer shortages statewide. But filling those vacant jobs with non-citizens is a non-starter for former Chicago mayoral candidate Dr. Willie Wilson.
I cannot go to China, no other country in the world, being a non-citizen and become a police officer. And I just think that's wrong.
Governor Pritzker speaking exclusively with Fox 32 last month on the challenges of finding new cops.
The Chicago Police Department has lost hundreds, 1,500 police officers. Some of that is a result, and we saw that at the state level, some of that is a result of there was a big hiring trend 20 years ago, and now it's time for them to retire.
This was just to help with officers with the shortages that they have.
Dr. Wilson isn't willing to wait to see if the new law puts more boots on the ground. He's ready to take the legislation to court.
I've talked to some lawyers already. If this goes through, we'll have to appeal it.
By the way, Illinois is not the first state to pass this kind of legislation. In California, where they have nearly 200,000 DACA recipients, they passed a similar law earlier this year. Don?
Thank you, Scott.
In my personal opinion, we should 100% get behind Willie Wilson. This is the type of action that we need in order to put an end to foolishness like this. This is the type of stuff that happens to Black Americans all the time. In the very rare occasions, that every now and then occasions, the sometimey occasions where it appears that a piece of legislation may be passing that could possibly benefit Black Americans, like how we saw happen with Black farmers. Immediately lawsuits come down and it gets shut down. Whatever that legislation was gets locked in litigation, and in some cases, the legislation gets tossed out completely and shut down completely. We need more things like this happening more often. In New York City, when the city council voted and passed into law non-citizen voting, folks in New York, they sued. They took it to the New York Supreme Court, and the New York Supreme Court shot that law down, saying that it was unconstitutional, I believe, by way of not just simply the federal constitution, but by way of the New York state constitution. So the New York Supreme Court shut it down. And it was because a lawsuit came down that killed that legislation. We need more action like this coming from Black Americans here in the United States. So we should and need to 100%, in my opinion, get behind Willie Wilson in his efforts to sue the state and put an end to this bill, and quite simply to just put this bill into the dirt. Now, what I want to do is before I get into Willie Wilson's letter, because he did pen you could say like an open letter, right? And I'll show it to you very quickly, but I don't want to read it just yet. Give me just a moment while I pull it up, and let me remove this video off the screen. Okay. So this was Willie Wilson's press statement concerning the non-citizen policing. And I guess I'll read that off first, actually, right? And then I'll get into the whole thing about DACA and undocumented so-called migrants that are crossing the border now because Joe Biden's allowing them to. I'll get into all that next, right? And their ability to purchase firearms and become police officers. We're going to get into all that in just a moment. But, I'm going to take a moment now to read Willie Wilson's press statement. So let me zoom in a little bit more so you all can see this clearly, and we can go through it together. But like I said, in my opinion, we all need to 100% get behind Willie Wilson and his efforts to shut this bill down and to get it removed from law. So from the personal desk of Dr. Willie Wilson, press statement. Wilson called on Illinois legislator to repeal law allowing non-U.S. citizens to become police officers. Chicago, Illinois. Governor Pritzker on Friday, July 28th, signed into law a bill to allow non-citizens to become police officers in Illinois. Illinois House Bill 3751 provides that an individual who is not a citizen but is legally authorized to work in the United States under federal law is authorized to apply for the position of police officers, subject to all requirements and limitations other than citizenship to which other applicants are subject. Our country is being destroyed by bad public policy decisions. It defies common sense that non-citizens should be arresting and detaining legal citizens. This law will further exacerbate already strained police and community relationships. Only in the United States and Illinois, where our immigration system is broken, would politicians contemplate such an idea. This bad law must be repealed before January 1st, 2024. The bill would allow any immigrant with legal authorization to work or who remains in the country under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA Act to apply for the position as a police officer. if the legislature does not repeal this law, excuse me, if the legislature does not repeal this awful law, I will explore legal options to stop it through the courts. Federal law states that only U.S. citizens can serve as police officers and deputies. And I know the bottom part is cut out, but you know what? What I'll do is I will take a quick moment. I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to leave it for you all in the live chat right now, so that you'll have this for yourself. So I just left it in a live chat. I 100%, like I said, stand behind Willie Wilson on this. 100% stand behind him. And I think you all should too. Now, something interesting that I want to get into before I close this out is, let's speak about right now migrants, so-called migrants, that are coming across the border right now as we speak and being shipped to Illinois, New York, and Washington, D.C., right? When you say those individuals will be allowed to become police officers and people scoff at you as if you're talking crazy, that just simply isn't true, right? The idea that they cannot and will not become police officers as well. Because the only thing required for you to become a police officer in Illinois, if this bill doesn't actually become law come January 1st of next year, is that you need to be legally authorized to work in the United States. Now, the point that I want to highlight is that though you and I and many others may refer to these so-called migrants as illegal immigrants, right? By law, they're not. Technically speaking, they're asylum seekers. They didn't cross the border illegally, technically speaking. They approached the border and they were let in. And once they were let in, they were put on a bus and sent straight to your city. And now they are awaiting federal work permits. And this is something that in New York City, Eric Adams, and as well as Brandon Johnson as well, has called on the president to expedite these work permits so that the so-called migrants can get to work and take care of themselves. So understand, at that point, they are also no longer undocumented. When they have their federal work permits, and you take that on top of the fact that they were allowed to come into the country by way of open borders via Joe Biden, right? And they were sent to your city and given a place to live. And now with their federal work permits, they can work. They are not illegal immigrants. They are not undocumented migrants. They are documented permanent residents who are legally allowed to work in the United States. So with that being said, yes, they can and will become police officers in your city. And another piece of interesting information that I found that I want to highlight to you all in closing is that, you know, one of the things that Governor Pritzker likes to highlight, and that I've heard him highlight a couple of times, is that, you know, we're not just letting anybody becoming police officer. We're not going to just let anyone become police officers in Illinois. You know, that's nonsense. It's Fox News foolishness, right? That just anybody can become a police officer here. And I'll actually read his direct quote from that. In defense, you know, Governor Pritzker said during a press conference where he spoke about legislation protecting reproductive rights in the state, Pritzker emphasized that the bill would be limited to individuals who are legally allowed to work in the United States and who are legally allowed to possess firearms, right? He brings that up a lot. And who are legally allowed to possess firearms, okay? So now when people, particularly vote blue no matter whoers, they hear that, what they're going to say is, oh, these guys crossing the border, these people crossing the border, they can't legally purchase a firearm. You know, you're talking nonsense, right? But that's not the case. That simply isn't true. There is no law that's barring them from being able to legally purchase firearms once they have become documented permanent residents, right? Who are legally allowed to work in the United States. There's no law that's barring them. And there's no amendment that has been made in law that is barring them. This right here comes from the ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, right? And I looked it up for myself because Governor Pritzker keeps saying this, May aliens legally in the United States purchase firearms? Let me zoom in a little bit because I know that's a little small for you guys to see. But this is from the ATF, right? May aliens legally in the United States purchase firearms? An alien legally in the U.S. is not prohibited from purchasing firearms. I'm going to repeat it again. An alien legally in the U.S. is not prohibited from purchasing firearms unless the alien is admitted into the U.S. under a non-immigrant visa and does not meet one of the expectations as provided in 18 USC 922 Y2, such as possession of a valid hunting license or permit. But I want to repeat that again. An alien legally in the U.S. is not prohibited from purchasing of firearms. Once again, you can call these folks south of the border who are crossing the border and getting sent to your cities illegal immigrants all you want. You can say that. I can say that. And that's fine. But by law, they are not illegal. By law, they are asylum seekers. By law, once they get their federal work permits, they're legally allowed to be in the United States. They're permanent residents who are working here. They're not getting sent back to wherever they came from anytime soon. They're not getting sent back at all. That's not happening. That's not happening. They are legal permanent residents who will be working legally in the United States, right? So yes, they can purchase firearms as long as their paperwork is in order. I want to come to here as well, because I'd never heard of the term non-immigrant visa before, right? Non-immigrant alien visa, because it makes reference to that here also, right? Where an alien legally in the United States not prohibited from purchasing firearms unless the alien is admitted into the U.S. under a non-immigrant visa. Well, what's a non-immigrant visa, right? A non-immigrant visa, as you can see here from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection website, is this, and I'll zoom in a little bit here too. Non-immigrant visa. Non-immigrant visas are issued to foreign nationals seeking to enter the United States on a temporary basis for tourism, business, medical treatment, and certain types of temporary work. Those that are coming into your city via Governor Abbott, right, in Texas, they are not here on the basis of tourism. They're not here on the basis of business. They're not here on the basis of medical treatment, right? And they're not here as temporary workers. They're here to stay. They are permanent residents of the United States who will soon be getting their federal work permits, allowing them to legally work in the United States, right? They don't fall into the category of non-immigrants who are operating on a non-immigrant visa, who are unable to purchase firearms. They do not fall into that category, okay? That's not who falls into that category. May a non-immigrant alien who has been admitted to the United States under a non-immigrant visa possess a firearm or ammunition in the United States? And once again, this is from the ATF website as well. But let me zoom back in. An alien admitted to the United States under a non-immigrant visa is prohibited from shipping, transporting, receiving, or possessing a firearm or ammunition unless the alien falls within one of the exceptions provided in 18 USC 922 Y2, such as a valid hunting license or permit, admitted for lawful hunting or sporting purposes, certain official representatives of a foreign government, or a foreign law enforcement officer of a friendly foreign government entering the United States on official law enforcement business. Does that sound like the people that are getting bussed into here from Texas? Does that sound like they fit the criteria of coming in to the country under a non-immigrant visa, right? No. Only non-immigrant visa holders are prohibited from purchasing firearms, right? unless you fall into those specific categories. And these specific categories, when they're talking about a valid hunting license or admitted for lawful hunting or sporting purposes, they're talking about those who are coming in from internationally, who are coming into the state, for reasons of sport, maybe for one reason or another. I don't know why this would be going on in Illinois, but there is some sort of a international a hunting contest, we'll say, or disc shooting contest. You know what I mean, right? So if you're coming in from Canada or you're coming in from China, on the basis of representing your country in this international sport that we're playing here, China and Canada and the US, well, yeah, you can have your gun here to hunt or to shoot the disc when it goes up into the air. If you're coming here for sport, yeah, you can do that. If you're an official representative of a foreign government, yes, you can do that. You can have your gun, right? If you're a foreign law enforcement officer from a friendly foreign government, we'll say like Canada or even Mexico, yes, you can have your gun. Those that are being shipped up to Chicago and Washington, D.C. and New York by way of Texas, they do not fall under that category, right? They don't fall under that category. They are simply legal permanent residents who will soon have their federal work permits to be able to work legally in the United States. And as long as you have your federal work permit and you're able to work here legally in the United States and you are a resident of said city or said state, yes, you can become a police officer in the state of Illinois come January 1st, 2024. And they can purchase firearms as well. There has been no amendment made, right? And there is no law currently that states that they cannot purchase a firearm as long as their paperwork is in order. And their paperwork being in order is a non-issue. It's a non-issue, right? Because they're already expediting work permits. So with all that being said, there are 351 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button. And thank you very much, Jenny Lamb, for your contribution to today's live stream. Always appreciative of the content, TD. Thank you very much, Jenny. And I appreciate your support to the channel as well. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. There are 351 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button if you have not already. Hit the like button so that will help this video permeate throughout the YouTube algorithms and more people will see it and will get their notifications. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and make sure that you hit the bell notification next to the subscribe button, and also share this video out on your social media platforms as well. And also don't forget to follow me on Telegram. The link to my Telegram is pinned in the live chat above. And I will catch you guys on the next live stream. Have a great day and stay safe. Peace.